Good evening and welcome to the first of two general election debates hosted by the D.C. Office of Campaign Finance. I'm Denise Rolark Barnes, publisher and owner of the Washington Informer, and I will serve as the moderator for tonight's debate. Tonight we will hear from four candidates competing for the office of mayor of the District of Columbia. We encourage members of the public to submit questions via the website at dcdebates.com. That's dcdebates.com, and to participate online using the hashtag DCISION22. That's DCISION22. Before we get started, let's hear from the Director of the Office of Campaign Finance, Cecily Montgomery.
Good evening. Welcome to the 2022 DC Fall Debate. I'm Cecily Montgomery, Director of the Office of Campaign Finance. The 2022 DC debates are the third slate of debates under the Fair Elections Program. Started in 2018, the FEP is a voluntary public financing program operated by the Office of Campaign Finance to support candidates for local political office in the District of Columbia. All FEP participating candidates for citywide races are required to take part in the debates. It is our hope that these debates will help the public to learn more about the candidates, their positions, and policy platforms. We want to take a moment to thank our partner organizations and the candidates for participating in the process. Thank you for joining us in our mission to help inform DC voters about the Fair Elections Program candidates and their positions. To learn more about the Office of Campaign Finance or the 2022 DC debates, please visit dcdebates.com. The debates will remain on the website through Election Day, November the 8th, for those who could not watch or listen live this evening. Thank you for your support, and with that, let's meet our candidates.
Thank you, Director Montgomery. The candidates for tonight's debate are Muriel Bowser, who served as mayor of the District of Columbia since 2014, Stacia Hall, a small business owner in Ward 3, Rodney Grant, who is a DC-born comedian and executive turned politician, and Denise Sobin, current director of Safe Streets Arts Foundation. Here are the ground rules for tonight's debate. And you all should know that I really lobbied for a little bit of a longer period of time to have your questions answered, because we want people to really hear what your positions are as it relates to the city and what the impact of your governance will have on them. So the candidates will have 2 minutes for an opening statement and 90 seconds for a direct answer to a question, 30 seconds for rebuttal. Each candidate will then have 2 minutes, again, for closing statements. If candidates wish to respond to an opponent's answer, we ask that you raise your hand, and we will be sure to call on you as time permits. With that, we will move to opening statements, and we will start with Mayor Bowser. As a reminder, Mayor Bowser, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Denise, and thank you for hosting tonight. I want to thank the Office of Campaign Finance as well for hosting and for doing an exemplary job running the Fair Elections campaign. My name is Muriel Bowser. I'm the Democratic nominee for mayor. I was proud to win a very competitive primary just this past June, and I am proud to be your mayor, and I have served as your mayor since 2015. Since 2015, we have been working on the big issues that affect DC and DC residents. Top of people's minds, we know, are public safety, how we're going to bring back our downtown, how we're going to bring back our kids from the impacts and effects on COVID, and how we will continue to provide excellent government services. I know that what this election is about, and it is about who do you trust to lead the city in the district's comeback. And for the last 8 years, I have delivered for DC residents. I keep my promises. I do the things that I say that I'm going to do. And I go out across all 8 wards and work with individuals, community groups on the things that matter to us. So I'm running for election again to lead the best city in the world and to build on the progress that we have made in putting Washington, D.C. at the forefront of many conversations, including the delivery of affordable housing. One of the things that I'm proudest of in our last 8 years is keeping a commitment to invest more in affordable housing than has ever been done in the history of the District of Columbia, to focus on and reduce family homelessness, and to make sure that we are putting more DC residents on the pathway to the middle class. Certainly, there is more work for us to do, and I'm looking forward to working with DC residents to get it done.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser. Next, we will go to Ms. Hall.
Thank you, Office of Campaign Finance, for having me and the other candidates on your panel to address the voters. My name is Stacia Hall. I am the Republican candidate for mayor of DC. I am a mother of 2, a grandmother of 2. And a little bit about me. I came from government assistance. I experienced homelessness, lived in housing projects, to now a part of the working class and a founder of a small business. And so, yes, I am down with the OPP. That means solving other people's problems. And so I say that it is time for a new and stronger leader. The current leader needs to sit down, for it is time for a reforming, problem-solving mayor, one who will give us better schools, safer streets, a growing economy, a smarter budget, and a mayor that will not keep over 40% of our students out of school because of the COVID vaccine, which is not FDA approved. And so I say that if on November 8th, the voters are ready to clean up the trash and clean out DC and start again on November 8th, vote Stacia Hall for DC mayor. It's time to be fearless, DC. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Now we will go to Mr. Sobin.
Yes, good day. I am Dennis Sobin, and I am running for mayor on the Libertarian ticket. If you're not familiar with the Libertarian Party, we are the ones who spearhead a lot of things that you take for granted now. Going back some decades ago, not too many decades, we were out there on behalf of the gay community, trying to get the police from arresting and imprisoning gays. And we succeeded with the help of a lot of other people in DC. When it came to marijuana decriminalization, we were spearheading that. Libertarian Party is the Freedom Party, and we believe that the current public safety issue and concern has to do tremendously with the war on drugs, which we are trying to end, at least make less racist. Of course, if you go to the DC jail, you'll find 99% of the people there are black. Even the murder rate in DC is overwhelmingly black, largely because of the drug war. The police enforce it in the black community, but not in the white community. Of course, if you try to bust drugs in the white community, the wealthy areas of Washington, the police will end up out of their, probably out of their jobs, and certainly won't get advancement. So these are very discriminatory things. The war on drugs is the #1 safety issue. The other day I was at a campaign rally or really a debate with other candidates, and I raised my hand to say, how many people in the audience use recreational drugs? There were several hundred people there. Nobody raised their hand. Maybe one person half raised it. And I said, oh, I'm surprised. I raised my hand. I was the only person. And I said, I'm surprised because there are so many recreational drugs. You have wine, beer, alcohol, any kind of alcohol. You
Mr.
have
Sobin, your
marijuana.
time is up. I'm sorry, I have to interrupt
Okay,
you. Maybe you can get back
very
to
good.
that a little later.
Okay,
Mr.
very good.
Grant?
How are you?
Good, thank you.
First of all, I want to thank the OCF for having me tonight. I want to thank you, Ms. Denise Rolark Barnes, for being the moderator tonight. This is a very important debate that we're having, and I just want to say that I am Rodney Grant. I was born and raised in Washington, D.C., in D.C. General Hospital, graduated from Sousa Junior High School, also graduated from Dunbar Senior High School, where I was a scholar athlete. Went on to Savannah State University to play football with the Great Shannon Sharp, and came back home at 19 to attend UDC. So I'm a Firebird for life. Where I started working for the Department of Parks and Recreation, where I coached kids and developed programming. A lot of my kids still call me coach to this day. I'm a person that understands and believes in management. You know, a lot of people know me for being on TV, but that was only 10% of my life. The other 90%, I'm a humanitarian, a philanthropist, a businessman, and an executive. And, you know, my goal right now is to make sure DC is a place where our young people are afforded the life to succeed. You know, our seniors are incorporated back into society. Our displaced and returning citizens are shown the love, care, and respect that they deserve. And our city is safe and affordable to live in again. You know, my career has taken me a lot of different places, and I've seen a lot of different things. And I experienced a lot of things that some politicians haven't. That's why I'm running as an independent. You know, this right here is a crucial race, and we have to understand that we need a leader that will, on day one, be able to implement the programs that are proper, make sure that people are put first, and we got to get our city back to a place where our leaders make real decisions.
Thank you,
So
Mr.
this is the
Grant.
time for us to save our
Thank you,
city.
Mr. Grant. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Grant. Your time is up.
All right, cool.
The next question will allow you an opportunity to elaborate, because we want to know why you decided to run for mayor of the District of Columbia, and what do you bring to this position that you haven't shared with us already. And we'll start with you, Ms. Hall.
Thank you. When I moved to Washington, D.C. Several years ago, Washington, D.C. was a great place for raising a child, and it reminded me of like a promised land, because it was in extraordinary condition, and the talk was about the schools and the opportunities. And now, when I look at DC, I see no remembrance of that time. The metrics, the benchmarks of DC have gone in the complete reverse. Right now, DC requires, and there is no debating this, DC requires a leader who knows what it feels like to have their 5-figure income, much of that go towards taxes. DC needs a real person to stand in the gap for them and their residents. And so I saw that it was time for me to stand up and do this. I have a teenage daughter who attends a DC school. I live, work, and worship in the district. I represent the district because I know what it feels like for most of your income to go towards high paying rent, and you can barely find food to put on the table. Changes have to be made immediately. DC stands as number 9 among 10 states with the highest poverty rates. And
Thank you,
this
Ms.
would
Hall. Thank you, Ms. Hall. We're going to move now to Mr. Sobin.
Yes, the reason I ran for mayor, and I've been very active politically over several decades, is because there are certain issues not being raised in the campaign. As I was saying before, at this meeting I was at where I asked people to raise their hand if they use recreational drugs, and no one did. I said, well, I'm glad you didn't raise your hand because it's not my business. It's nobody's business. And it's not the government's business either. How people enjoy their private time, how they interact with other consenting adults is their business and their business alone. And we have many police in the district that are devoting their lives to trying to entrap people who are nonconformists rather than focusing on real crime. And this is the major reason why I'm running for mayor. Frankly, I think the mayor, the existing mayor, has done a great job. She's experienced, and I know she's probably very likely to win the election this time. The statistics are with her. But I think she has to reconsider, whoever's going to be mayor, the problem of law enforcement and how to use police in uniform, engaged in helping people protect themselves and not trying to entrap people and send them to jail, which are overcrowded anyway now. And as I say, predominantly black, it's racist. So this is
Thank
the
you,
main
Mr.
reason why
Sobin.
I'm running.
Thank you, Mr. Sobin. Can we go to
Thank you.
Mr. Grant?
Thank you so much. Well, I'm running for mayor because DC is in a place where it's suffering right now. I was called to run for mayor 3 years ago, and when I came back to DC, the people in the city were telling me how they're suffering, how they need a new leader in our city because our current leader is not caring about our city. She's giving the city away. She doesn't care about the real people of Washington, D.C. And this is the truth. The crime is up for the last 6 years. Crime is on the rise. And our current mayor has no comprehensive public safety plan to stop it. Homelessness is up to we're number 1 per capita in the world. Our education system is failing our students here in Washington, D.C. The park scores just came out on Labor Day Friday around 4:50 in the afternoon or in the evening, where they were trying to hide, the numbers of what's going on in our school system. But with black and brown children, 9 out of 10 are below average in math. 4 out of 5 are below average in English. And this is a shame for our city to be like this. We just got a deterrent that they said that Washington, D.C. is the worst run city in America. It's embarrassing to have our city be the worst run city in America under Muriel Bowser. And we have to have a new
Thank you,
leader.
Mr. Grant.
We have to have a new leader now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. Ms. Bowser, Mayor Bowser.
I ran for Mayor Denise in 2015 because I knew that our city needed a good and ethical government, and they needed a leader who was going to be bold and focus on the things that would help more Washingtonians participate in the progress and the growing progress that we experience in this city. Washington, D.C. is among the best run cities anywhere in America. Our financials, even with the hard hit that we have taken from COVID, are strong, which is going to lead us to our comeback. Our schools, the types of investment that we put in our schools, our teachers, and our buildings and our programs will position us better than any place in America to bring our kids back from the learning losses that were suffered during COVID. So some of the things that my friends here have mentioned that are affecting major cities across America, like rising crime and children having lost ground during COVID, is part of the problem of experiencing a 2.5-year response to a pandemic. But DC residents know that they have the right person in the seat. Not only did they come out during the primary to say so, they say so across all 8 wards. They want a decision maker that is experienced. They want someone who can moderate between a lot of different ideas, but at the end of the day, make the decisions that help the most people the fastest. And that's what I've been doing for my career in DC government.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser. Mr. Grant, I'm going to go to you because you mentioned a comprehensive safety plan. Earlier this year, residents were asked to identify their top concern that they would want the new mayor or the mayor to focus on. And of course, one of the priorities was crime, violence, and guns. What new ideas do you have to fight crime and address safety in the District of Columbia?
Well,
Mr. Grant?
my background right now, my background right now is I deal with young people all the time. My programs like Don't Shoot Guns, Shoot Cameras, and Beyond Your Block are showing young people how to live their life in a different way. I feel like we have forgotten about our young people in our city, in this city of Washington, D.C. When I was growing up, we had programs that stopped us from being involved with violence. And right now, when you take out the recreation centers and you take out trades in schools, this is why we're at the problem of where we are right now. We can't shut down our schools and we can't shut down our trades in our schools. People all don't want to go to college. Some want to just be a part of just the workforce. And we have to train our young people for the workforce. We also have to put financial literacy back in our schools to teach our young people how to deal with their finances and understand what it's going to be like in the future. I feel like right now that crime is at a high because we have forgotten about our young people. And if you look at the numbers, 17 and under, our young people are committing a lot of crimes. So we have to deal with that number, and it's a real number, and we have to deal with it now.
So, Mr. Sobin, we'll come to you next because we want to know if you become mayor of the District of Columbia, what new ideas would you introduce to fight crime and address violence in the District of Columbia?
Well, that is my number one concern, as I have mentioned. And what I would do is all the police that we're now using out of uniform, I would put in uniform, get them into the community, and I would instruct them no more out of uniform police work, no more entrapment of citizens. And I believe if we create this situation and we will gain more respect for our police officers, they will be considered to be friends of the community rather than in many communities, enemies. Mayor Barra used to call the police the army of occupation. And in some ways that's true, and it's unfortunate. We should have the police here to represent and help all of us, not try to put us all in jail. The current mayor can easily change the situation, not by legislation, although that would be helpful, but by directing the police, just calling up the chief of police, say, look, get these guys back in uniform, these gals back in uniform, no more entrapment of citizens. And I think that would go a long way to public safety improvement here in the District of Columbia.
Thank you. Mayor Bowser, let me ask you, since you've been in the driver's seat and confronting these issues, what would another term, a third term of provide district residents when it comes to fighting crime and addressing violence in the District of Columbia?
Well, Denise, I think that we're very focused on driving down all manners of crime from adults and juveniles, and we have to be very concerned. And I agree with what was said about the young people who are engaging in carjackings and robberies that are really terrifying the neighborhoods that they live in and terrorizing neighborhoods across the city. Our plan is a comprehensive plan, but it does include the police. And so what you will get from me is the ability to go to the council, get the resources we need, put the right people in place, from policing to prevention, including the violence interrupters, to public health professionals, and to Mr. Sobin's point, the mental and behavioral health professionals that we need to focus on substance misuse in our communities that don't rise to the criminal level. So that is our comprehensive plan, and we are slowly seeing programs work, including our violence interruption efforts that will drive down gun use. And I can talk about that a lot, but we'll also hold people accountable who are committing crimes in our city.
Ms. Hall?
Yes. So I'm concerned with something the mayor said earlier. Like, I'd like to know where her numbers come from, where she gets her numbers from, that things are down or they are where they should be in terms of crime, in terms of education, because this is not the information that many of the voters received. I'm sure they'd be more encouraged to see those numbers. But from what I understand, the voters are saying that there are people OD'd at bus stops. The guns go off in the night all the time. Police are overstressed, overworked, so can't respond fast enough. And shoplifting is causing small stores in Ward 8 to go out of business, which is one of the places people get their goods. So the crime is up. It is growing and it is not going down. And in order to know the truth, I think we need to go to the voters and hear what they have to say. And I think we should go into all 8 wards, especially the wards that are riddled with crime, and hear their voices. We're letting our children down. They are our future. Just like the song, I Believe the Children Are Our Future, is real. They are the ones that will lead this nation and this city. So we
Thank you, Ms.
cannot.
Hall. Thank you, Ms. Hall. Thank you. And Ms. Bowser, and I'll come to you in a second, Mr. Grant, because Ms. Hall directly asked your question, excuse me, in her response about where you're getting your numbers from. I will give you 30 seconds if you would like that to respond.
Very quickly, Denise, I get my numbers from the chief of police, and we also participate in the Criminal Justice Council, where all the members of our Public Safety Committee sit. These numbers are publicly available, and at no time did you ever hear me say that I'm satisfied with where we are with gun crime, robbery, or carjacking in our city. But in fact, we are seeing the programs that we put in place working to drive down gun.
Thank you, Ms. Bowser. Mr. Grant, you had your hand raised?
Yeah, I did. The problem is we have a crisis, a public safety crisis in Washington, D.C., and everybody's acting like...
I think you've answered the question.
No, but I know
you've
I
answered the question, Mr. Grant. We'll come back.
But we're at 200. We're at 200. We're at more.
We want to move now to the next.
Than last year.
Right. We want to move. We were looking for solutions, Mr. Grant. So we're going to move on because we've got a lot to cover this evening, and you have time to come back to talk about that if you'd like. We also, one of the other questions that was asked, and residents were concerned, a second priority was about affordable housing and tackling the issue of high rents in the District of Columbia. Mr. Sobin, I'll start with you. How would you tackle the issue of high rents in the district and making the city more affordable for its residents?
I would hire the mayor to advise me on that point because I don't have the experience that she has, and I would have to research it. And as I say, I would speak to the mayor, even hire her as a consultant to work with me on this issue. It's a very difficult issue.
All right, Mr. Grant, I'll come back to you, and that's the question about rents, if you want to address that.
Okay, yeah. Well, I think we have to deal with our MFI here in Washington, D.C. You know, our MFI has been shattered because people in Washington, D.C. do not make the money that people in Loudoun County, Montgomery County, Fairfax County are making, and we're using that MFI. We have to lobby HUD right now to be able to get our MFI at a place that is real. And we also have to put checks and balances on these developers that are here in Washington, D.C. Because if we don't put the checks and balances on the developers that the mayor is giving money to every day that are not making our city affordable and are not building affordable housing, then we're going to have the same problem 4 years from now. And we're going to run so many people out of this city. It's 20,000 people have left this city since Muriel Bowser's been in office. And she's just waving to them, bye-bye, see you later, don't come back, never come back to this city because you won't be able to afford it. That's her plan about affordable housing. But we have to get it together right now to slow this process down so people who are from Washington, D.C. can live in Washington, D.C. again, eat their crabs in their backyard, eat their crab legs, and let us be D.C. again. Stop pushing people out.
Ms. Hall?
Thank you. And so I agree with Mr. Grant. We are a district. We're not a state. So the way in which our housing, the market in DC, it needs to be regulated differently. More legislation need to be presented for that. But 42,000, almost 43,000 residents are using more than 50% of their income to pay their rent. So I thought it was 30%, but more than 50% of their income to pay rent. Yes, DC is number 9, along with Mississippi, Alabama, and some other states whose minimum wage are far less. Their cost of living is way less than DC, but DC's number 9 as having the highest poverty rate. So these things can't be ignored. We need a problem-solving leader. We need a leader who's a reformer, a leader that is proactive. You got to see the ending and the beginning. So there's been a lot of time to study the system and to know it well enough to be proactive. And so we need to, rather than give these builders more work to do, we need to take the housing we have, the empty buildings we have, restore them, reform them, make them affordable housing. And we need to do better for our residents, especially our base. People have grown up here and they're out of here now. They live somewhere else.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Mayor Bowser?
Denise, I'm very proud of the work that we have done with building housing, with investing in housing, and with keeping our promises. The truth is there's no jurisdiction in America that has done more per capita in investing in affordable housing units. And at a time where people are moving and want to be in DC and wanting to start their businesses in DC, even with COVID, we're going to see those trends of migration back into the city getting stronger and stronger from month to month. And what is important is that we tackle the affordable housing issue as we have done, with making sure we produce more units, increase the supply, making sure we're investing and preserving units so the naturally wonderful affordable housing that we have across all 8 wards is maintained, that what the council has done from a policy perspective and making sure that it maintains rent control, and it has done so legislatively, thanks to Anita Bonds, and make sure that rent control has been extended another 10 years. But we also have to be focused on people's incomes. We're never going to be a city where the housing prices are low. It's because of the amenities that we have here, that the high wages that we have in this city is always going to make housing more expensive than some places that have been mentioned. So we have to be
Mayor
focused
Bowser.
on how to raise the incomes as well of our residents.
Thank you. Thank you. One of the issues that has impacted the district and continues is its relationship with the federal government, as well as now other state governments. Over the past few months, we've had thousands of migrants from Texas and Arizona that have come to the District of Columbia, some that are staying here and some that are going to other places. We don't know when this is going to end. In the meantime, if you were elected mayor and I'll start again with you, Mr. Sobin. What direction would you give the Office of Migrant Services and other agencies to plan for these new residents?
Within the budgets that we have, I would direct them to just be as considerate and as helpful as possible, and certainly help them find gainful employment, even if it's on a volunteer basis, something to give back to the community for the help that we would be giving them. I don't have a lot more to say about that because we have professionals in that capacity who can do a better job than I can as far as making the day-to-day decisions, but I would be as supportive as possible.
Mayor Bowser?
Well, as I have done, Denise, I am dealing with a crisis that's not of our making, and making sure that we are living up to our values while at the same time making sure that our programs and services that we've worked so hard to invest in for DC residents can withstand this crisis. So I put in place a public emergency. I have an emergency piece of legislation in front of the council now that will allow us to create a new infrastructure, a new framework to help people who are here temporarily get the services that they need to reset their lives in the United States.
Ms. Hall?
Hi there. So I know that the mayor put in place a migrant care in DC that is about $10 million to deal with the problem. I totally disagree. Migrants should not be bused here by the Texas governor. Neither should our president be flying migrants here. So both are wrong, and we really, they both got to be equally addressed. And so Sanctuary City, I would end the status, because for these governors, Sanctuary City means that DC is a city that allows for these migrants to have a rest stop, to have a temporary place to live. And there's almost 7,000 DC residents that are homeless that need to be taken care of first. And so I'm not in agreement with anyone bringing migrants here. And so federal government or the Congress has to help to get these migrants onto their next stop.
All right, thank you. Mr. Grant?
Well, first of all, we're talking about relationships. Our current mayor has made some of the worst relationships in DC history. She can't get along with the council. She can't get along with the AG. And she can't get along with the federal government. So we have terrible relationships. See, we have a problem here in Washington, D.C. Yeah, they can have temporary shelter, but we have people in our city that are residents that deserve that money to go to them so they can have a housing situation. We have the problem here. We're talking about the migrants. We have to deal with our problem here. We know what's going on with the federal government right now. We know that the Texas governor is sending people here, but we can't afford to have anybody here other than the people that are residents in Washington, D.C. We got to deal with our own problem. Our residents are the people that we should be putting the money into. Our residents are the people that we should be focusing on. But we're focusing on the wrong things. And our residents are out in the street homeless right now with no place to live. And I go out there all the time and I speak to our homeless our population, and they tell me directly the mayor has to go because she's not helping us. It's a bunch of fluff that she's giving you guys, and that is the problem. Relationships.
All right, thank you. We're going to move on to education. Mayor Bowser, you mentioned early on that the issue of learning losses. There's also the issue of supporting teachers. What measures do you feel need to be put in place to support children that have fallen behind? And secondly, what can you tell teachers they can expect from your administration to support them going forward?
Well, I'm very proud of the work that we have done to support the Biden administration and getting the ARP through the Congress and getting $750 million that was owed to us from the CARES Act. So when my friend mentions my relationships, I get things done for DC residents at all levels, at the Congress, at the White House, to deliver. That's why we've gotten our fair share of emergency funds that have allowed us to put in place high impact tutoring, have allowed us to put in place enrichment at DPR, that's allowing us to put in advanced technical internships for our students that some people think of is the contemporary vocational training, where we're allowing our students to go to school and go to work and get paid at the same time and be prepared for college and career. So those are some of the things that we can do with regard to learning loss. On the question of our teachers, we're proud to have the best paid teaching force in this region, highly qualified, great teachers in our classrooms. I'm looking forward to us resolving our labor issue. I think you've seen all of the labor agreements that I've negotiated with our work partners, and I'm looking forward to the teachers coming to the table as well.
Thank you, Ms. Bowser. Mr. Sobin, we'll come to you next.
Regarding education in the district, my children have gone to both public schools and private schools in the District of Columbia. And when we lived in some of the poor areas of Washington and they went to public schools there, I accompanied them to breakfast in the morning, and the other students were sitting around and we all talked. And so many of the students were talking about the problems in their community that had nothing to do with education. An uncle being killed the night before, or a father in prison, a mother doing this or that. And I realized that we were in a war zone here. And how can children be educated when there's gunfire going off all the time, when relatives are being taken away either temporarily or permanently? So I became committed at that point to having the police be friends of the community and protecting people rather than engaged in this nonsensical war on drugs that we keep on going. I agree with the mayor when she says that we need to have programs that help people who are addicted to drugs, but throwing people in jail because they use drugs either recreationally or by addiction does not help them and does not help their families. So
Thank
to
you,
me,
Mr. Sobin.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sobin. Mr. Grant.
Well, we all know we have a problem when it comes to our teachers. Our teachers' contract has been on the mayor's desk for the last 3 years. Our teachers need to be paid what they deserve. The housing market has gone up, and we still haven't gave them a raise. Also, we have to get them trades back in school so our kids will be learning. And we have to have a retention of our teachers so they'll want to be here in Washington, D.C. They're leaving our city right now to go to other places to work. We want to retain our teachers here in Washington, D.C. We have fabulous teachers in Washington, D.C. My daughter goes to school at Dill, went to school last year at Johnson Middle School. And I want to see all of our kids have the best education and hire the best teachers here in Washington, D.C. So we have to continue to give to our teachers because they are the people who are looked down on the most, and they work the hardest. The principals also. So we have to give it back to the people who are dealing with our kids on a daily basis right now and give it back to them now. Let's sit at the table and give them their contract. Please.
You got a couple seconds left. The question had two parts. The other part was, as mayor, what would you do to address the learning loss that students experience due to COVID? And you've got about 10 seconds to answer that.
Well, COVID was big on all of us. The learning loss, some of them went from virtual to back to in-school learning. We have to implement a program so they can get back into school and learn the best way they can. It's our young people.
Okay.
You got to give them the opportunity to be great, period.
Thank you. Ms. Hall.
Yes,
Education, really, by now we should know, if you're, if you're a parent, if you have nieces, nephews, education is not a one size fit all. And it's been, the signs for that have been in our face for a long time. So we have to restore vocation and trade in schools. Especially, we see the difference in the behavior and the attitude by the time the kids get in about middle school. That's when we should know we got to start addressing some life skills and start addressing some emotional issues with our children. And so we can also, with that budget that is not transparent, we need to take some smart money and we need to invest it in our children. Our children like nice things. They want to eat. They want clothes. And so we should offer incentives for our children to show up to school, be accounted for, and get the grade. They should be motivated and excited because they just received an award payment, instead of taking the money and spending it on, say, the education budget that increases by another 10 million, and we don't know where the money's going. I agree with teachers being compensated. So we've got to give our parents a voice. We cannot take the parents' right. DC government or the teachers union don't make the better choices for their children's health or education. So parents and
Thank you,
teachers
Ms. Hall.
work well together.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to move to another subject, one that Mr. Sobin brought up before, dealing with the issue of, and the mayor brought up the issue of drug misuse. DC has a fentanyl crisis, as do other cities. And the numbers are extremely high as it relates to the number of overdoses this year, but particularly they're increasing as it relates to fatal overdoses that are fentanyl related. Substance abusers and programs are crying out for assistance, including the need for more long-term programs to address the problem. What is your answer to this growing fentanyl crisis in the District of Columbia, and how would you address it as mayor? Mr. Grant?
First of all, when we have our residents dying off of fentanyl, that should be a sound the alarm type of situation, because our residents are in the park sitting, dying, and no one's checking on them. Fentanyl has been killing so many people around our city. They're putting it in everything. They're putting it in all of the drugs. So no one is safe that even uses drugs. So we have to attack the situation from a public safety standpoint and get this fentanyl out our communities now, because it's coming from somewhere, and we got to find out where it's coming from. And we got to get our residents help. We got to get them some help right now to get them into drug rehab centers. We got to open up drug rehab centers that have shown the love, care, and respect for our residents. Our residents want to be healed. We got to heal them. We have to reach back down and pull our residents up from the stronghold of fentanyl right now, and do it immediately with the public safety issues and bring them in. We need more mental health professionals out there checking on our residents and showing them the love and pulling them into these programs. We got to open up more programs that's going to help our residents. So my job as mayor would be to make sure we have the mental health services, we have the drug rehab centers that they need, and someone out in the community that actually cares about the people and the residents that are on drugs right now.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. Ms. Hall?
Yes,
We're not enforcing our laws. We're not providing rehabilitation. I think I heard the mayor say about 4 or 5 times that she is proud of her record when it comes to these different things, but never. Can we please get back to the people? What about the needs of the children and of those that are suffering in drug abuse? Those have mental illnesses. In order to bring down crime, we've got to stop pretending this don't exist. We've got to honor and address our faith leaders, get them back involved. We need our faith leaders. We need our police. We need our people to come together and and as Mr. Grant said, heal this community, because that's like not very important to some people, and we think that we've got all the answers. But why not work together as a community and form communities within communities to bring healing to our district? And it's just that simple, because you can't do it alone. You need the help of the faith leaders, because they're connected to the God of heaven and earth. And we need the police, need to support our police, and our people need to be shown that they don't need to be afraid, because everybody backs them. And our
All
children,
right.
remember, our
Thank you.
children
Thank you.
are the ones that we are losing.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Ms. Bowser, Mayor Bowser.
Well, I agree with Ms. Hall on several points in her last response, and that is the government cannot do it alone. And I will say this 1,000 times on a number of issues, but on the issue of safety and in some respects with mental health and behavioral health, it really does take the village to stand in the breach and make sure that the safety nets that we create, that the government creates, that people are connecting to them and that they work. We have a program for almost everything that has been mentioned here. But that doesn't mean that there's somebody in the government that is walking you through every step of the way to be able to engage and embrace those programs. So we have created some of that with navigation services for homelessness, for work, for life coaching, you name it. We put highly qualified individuals in place to help our residents who are the most vulnerable, who need the most help and have trouble navigating the system, to get the help they need. Healing, I think, is also very important. I think I've heard that a couple of times here, and that is a big community, spiritual faith. That is a combination of all of us working together to make sure that people who are experiencing trauma are getting the help they need. For our part in the government, making sure that our staffs have the trauma-informed training that they're dealing with, that our residents are dealing with
Thank,
all sorts of trauma, to
thank you, Ms.
effectively.
Bowser. Thank you, Mayor Bowser. We have to go to Mr. Sobin now.
Yes, you sound like we have to go to him like we don't have much choice in that.
No, I didn't
Sounds
say
like
it that way.
sounds like Calvin was talking, Denise. At any rate, I not too long ago I was in a community well known for its open air drug usage and all of that, and I ran across a couple in a car, and there was an emergency, and I think it was the woman was being helped by the man, and the woman was going into seizures and some serious problems, which I assume were drug related. At least I got that impression. And I said to the guy, I said, let's call an ambulance. Let's go to. And they said, no. She'll get arrested. We don't want the police involved. We don't. And I think that's the crux of the situation here. We have a situation where people are afraid to get help because of the illegality of it. If it was decriminalized, we wouldn't have that situation. We tried during the last century to make alcohol use illegal. Possession of alcohol was illegal. Trafficking in alcohol, and it didn't work. It created a situation like we have with fentanyl, where people were getting impure alcohol then and were creating more problems. There were blindness, there were other ailments coming up. So I think the
Sobin,
first
we're
step,
out of time.
Yes,
We're out of
thank
time.
you.
Sorry about
That's
that.
okay.
We're almost really out of time. I wanted to get a question in here about the environment and the movement towards a green economy in the District of Columbia. Initiatives that, one, will lead to an improved environment, but more importantly, to jobs. Can you share with us or the viewers how you would promote green jobs in the District of Columbia? Where do you see those opportunities? Mr. Grant.
Well, first of all, we have to build our city back in a green level. Right now, you you can ride down the street and see the haze in our city again, and we have to clean it up immediately. We have to clean up the Anacostia River. We have to do better, give people jobs to do that. We have to clean our city up. Period. Our city is becoming a big trash, like a lot of trash. My Howard students called me the other day and they were like, Mr. Grant, can we do a clean up the neighborhood? Because there's just so much trash out here in the neighborhood. We have to find a way to make it green again. We have to put, solar panels on roofs. We have to make sure that people are working in those spectrums. And we got to make sure that our people are breathing the freshest air that they can breathe in Washington, D.C. Got to get our electric cars back on the road. I believe in electric cars, and I also believe in regular cars, but I think we need to push for more electric cars in our city and make it affordable for people to have electric cars where, we're not paying as much electricity on our situations when we plug up. So those are some of the ways that I would start by helping our citizens become job ready for our new change, and also give our citizens and our residents the first jobs that come out.
Mr. Sobin, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think what we've been doing in the city to help the environment has been good, and I would like to see a continuation of that policy. I happen to be a bike rider. I also own a truck and a car, but my bike is my favorite way to get around the city. I use the other vehicles if I'm going out of the city, and the bike paths are wonderful, and I think they're helping quite a bit. I'm also the owner of an electric outboard motor, so I boat on the Potomac and use electric for that. The candidate who said that there should be more electric vehicles in the district, I didn't hear him say that he himself owns one, but I guess maybe that's in the future. So that's my answer.
I do own one. Yeah, I do own one.
Oh, good.
I do.
Good.
Yeah, I do.
Very good. Ms. Hall.
We need all jobs, not just green jobs. And so my concern is, will the mayor shut down the open air market on Good Hope Road? And I just feel like I know that certain things are legal in DC, but I do feel like they affect the environment, and the scent of them are it is a lot to bear. And so we have some bad water, and we need to compost. We should partner with our grocery stores to give the leftover food to those that are hungry and to our families that need it, rather than throwing it away. All right. So the composting would truly help greatly, and so those are just some of the ideas that would really help to improve the environment.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor Bowser.
Thank you. So we have done quite a lot in our city in partnership with the council to make us one of the greenest cities in America. We've recommitted to the Paris Climate Accords, and we set some very aggressive goals for reducing carbon emissions by 2050. And we're working hand in hand with our community groups, including the Sierra Club and others, to make sure that we stay on point with those goals. And they are aggressive. And it is going to take us working together to make sure that our residents, our businesses, and our infrastructure can get us there. And we're very focused on that. We're looking at ways to deploy the bipartisan infrastructure dollars to help us improve our infrastructure and make it more sustainable. And one focus that we will have is on electrification, to allow more people to buy electric cars and have the ability to power them up at more places anywhere in the city. So we're looking forward to that. We have created green jobs already. I'm very proud of a partnership that we have with DC Water and Wind and DC government. I'm very proud that I created the DC Infrastructure Academy, where we're not just training people, but we're training them for actual jobs that exist among our utility companies and putting them to work. When I became mayor, only rich people in more affluent neighborhoods could get solar panels and have monthly savings. But we have
Thank,
Solar for All now that allows them to access those savings.
thank you, Mayor Bowser. The time has gone by quickly. We started a little late, but we got the end on time. So each of you will be given 2 minutes for your closing remarks. I will start again in the reverse of how we started in the beginning. So, Mr. Grant, I'll start with you. Mr. Grant, we don't hear you.
So I want to say thanks so much for moderating this great event. Denise, you were wonderful and fair to all of us. People in our city are afraid right now. Violent crimes have risen for the last 6 years, and our mayor has no plan. And the plan she has is not being managed properly. It's not fair to the residents of this great city. Throwing money at everything is not a plan. My comprehensive plans will keep us safe now and in the future. I'm ready to implement this comprehensive plan on day one. We have to focus on our police resources on public safety, not our police officers as catch-all agency. Our police should be responding to crimes, getting out into the public and to the community, patrolling and solving these cases. We can't blame the police for crime and the increase of crime. That falls on the shoulders of the mayor, and the mayor has not been responsible for her own mismanagement of this city and this problem. And I am that leader that's going to recognize the problem and align myself with the solution. So on November 8th, make sure you go out and on the fourth spot of the ballot, hit Rodney Red Grant. Make sure you keep your party, but keep your thoughts independent. Thank you so much for having me tonight. Thank you so much to all the people that are here.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. And Mr. Sobin, we go to you next.
Yes, thank you for this evening of conversation, which I have frankly found quite depressing. We have a mayor here who has done quite a bit for the city, and I don't think we've shown her the proper respect. And I want to thank her for her years of service. And if she wins the election, her 4 more years of service. I hope she won't go beyond that point, because I think we should have a change of leadership at least at one point. But as far as voting for me, I can look at me as being the peace candidate, the candidate who wants to stop this war on drugs, the candidate who wants to use all the wasted money we're using for incarcerating people and the police that are entrapping people, money that we could use for real programs that will help our young people, that will help our addicts, etc. And that is why I want you to vote for me, the Libertarian Party candidate. And thank you again.
All right, Ms. Hall.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed speaking with the voters tonight. And I believe that the mayor sets the tone for this city. So if the mayor says this will be the case in terms of keeping crime, we're down, bringing it down, the mayor sets the tone and the people will listen. The crime is up over 21% from last year, and we're seeing it continually increase. And with it, we are losing more of our children. Our children go out for a weekend celebration, a holiday celebration, and they don't come back home. They are the ones that we're losing. And this is very sad that we are not going after this issue right away. As mayor, I would make sure I establish a strong relationship with the Attorney General, as the Attorney General is the office that handle the juvenile justice. That area needs much tighter reform, because it is our youth who are being used to carry out the majority of the crimes, because they go in and they come back out and they carry on. And so we need to save our children, make education worthy and exciting, that they have a zeal to learn, give them an incentive to come to school, keep them physically active. And we must address this poverty issue. There's been no welfare reform, and it's just all willy-nilly. Everybody just get to do what they please. But we're getting stronger people in our city that's helping to build our city, and they're leaving our city just as
Ms.
quickly.
Hall, thank you very much. Thank you very
Reforming and
much.
problem skills.
So we will now move on to Mayor Bowser for your closing remarks.
Well, thank you, Denise. And I want to thank all of the residents who took time this evening to watch and to listen and to send in their questions, many of whom voted for me in June. And I'm asking them and others to take this election very seriously and come out and vote on November 8th for Muriel Bowser for mayor. Also, there are very important council elections on the ballot, including the at-large race, where you have an opportunity to vote for 2 candidates. I'm the Democrat running for mayor. And I just, in listening to this conversation today, my spirit tells me just to say this. Running for mayor is not a joke. It is very serious business. We live in one of the most important cities in the world. We have a $20 billion budget that requires expertise and finesse to manage and implement each and every day. We have to have courageous leaders that have demonstrated an ability to stand up to power, even if it's Donald Trump, even if it's the Congress of the United States, even if it's leaders in your own party. You have to have that. And I have demonstrated that in my 15 years of service to the residents of the District of Columbia. My leadership has been tested to the core in the last 2.5 years, where I had to make tough decisions related to COVID that I know saved lives. I'm very proud of the work that we have done that has been progressive and aggressive and effective in dealing with our affordable housing issues in the District of Columbia. We also saved our economy. I did 2 budgets in the space of like 3 months during COVID to make sure that businesses didn't close and that people could pay their employees. And I have a real plan for our comeback. What I didn't hear tonight was any plans for what's next for the District of Columbia. How do we make sure that we get our downtown revived, that our agencies...
Mayor Bowser, your time is up. All right.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you all.
Thank you. That concludes our debate. To learn more about how to vote in this election, visit dcboe.org. That's dcboe.org. And remember to visit dcdebates.com. Again, that's dcdebates.com to watch this debate and others in their entirety. I want to thank all of you, all of the candidates, our community partners, and the Office of Campaign Finance for hosting tonight's debate. I wish you all a safe evening and good night.